Hello, my name is Gabriel O'Connell, and I'm going to be presenting my final project for New Testament Survey on the story of the prodigal son and how it relates to us today. So let's get started. As you're probably aware, the parable of the prodigal son is found in Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32, and the context behind it is Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he tells them the story of a son who asked for his inheritance just to leave his father and go spend it all and live an impure life that was temporary and fleeting. And the son basically gets to a point where he's just at his lowest of lows and he's living in a pigsty. Eating pig food, but he's afraid to return to his father because he's afraid of the punishment, and he's ashamed of what he's done. But when he finally returns to his father, he finds that he was wrong and that his father welcomes him with open arms, which is totally contrary to what the son believed would have happened. And the father actually throws a party and a festival for his return in his name because he's just so overjoyed that his son returned that he doesn't even think to reprimand him or punish him for what he did, but instead just wants to celebrate his return and his coming back. Um, and Jesus used this to teach the disciples about God's heart, and he does the same with us today. He does this in a few ways. The first one is by depicting the importance of having a father in one's life, which is um, which is very important in our understanding of just how to live and our understanding of God today. And the second way he does this is by providing an understanding and a depiction of the loving and forgiving heart of God to us in a unique light. And he teaches us to model the Father's actions in this story as well. So the biggest reason this relates to us today is because in America, there is a problem that has developed over the last few decades in which many American children and teens are now having to grow up and go through life without a father in a one parent home. And one study actually found that this is the greatest trauma that young people face today, just because it's so common and because it hurts so deep, and it is not what God intended at all. Fatherlessness during childhood has become a major part of American life due to divorce and the rise of having children outside of marriage. And overwhelmingly, these one parent households are led by women. So, single mother households. The importance of fathers is greatly displayed in the parable of the prodigal son, because if it weren't for that father that he had to return to celebrate him, then this son likely would have died just living with those pigs, because he had spent all that he had and he had gotten to his lowest of lows. And it shows just that God intended for fathers to be present, that he intended for a father figure and a mother figure for there to be a unity there. And that's something that has become perverted and twisted in our society today, and our society needs healing in that greatly. And the church is actually the tool that God wants to use to usher that healing in. And we see that in this story, that it is that the second way this relates to us today is because it shows us that the heart of God is to quickly forgive, and it shows us just the permanence and the strength of his love, that nothing can take it away. Um, Jesus puts God in the place of the Father in the story, and he puts sinners in the place of the prodigal son, and he shows that no matter how many times we stray away and waste it all, God's always going to welcome us with open arms, and he's always going to rejoice when we come back, and he's going to throw a party for us when we come back, and it just puts on full display and shines new light on just the forgiveness that God has. Um, and there's a lot of personal application that we can use today for that. There's a lesson for us as a church and individually. The lesson for us as a church would primarily be just to welcome in and be as open and just accepting as possible to those who we feel like would least deserve it, and to those who are undesirable, but to welcome them in, and just to provide a place where they can meet with the presence of God, where they can have that moment like the prodigal son did with God, where God opens his arms and receives him. So that is primarily our role as a church. And then individually, we we have to apply this when we are our parents, but also with friendships and relationships, to model the heart of God, which is to welcome and receive with open arms, and to be quick to forgive and quick to love, and not hold grudges and not hold punishment um, but instead just to receive with love and to rejoice in return. And these are my sources. I primarily found everything from a USA Today article about fatherlessness in America and the epidemic that it has become. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned as much from this as I did. Just the yeah, the level at which so many Americans are now struggling without having a father in their household, but also the opportunity that it presents to us as a church to provide father figures and to be that father in the story, no matter how many times the prodigal son strays off. That is our role. Thank you so much.